Hello, friends. Today is Maundy Thursday or Holy Thursday, and it is a day that often gets overlooked in the celebration of Holy Week. Well, overlooked if you're not a very liturgical church. So, Lutherans, Episcopalians, Catholics, you know what I'm talking about. But for the rest of you believers who maybe didn't grow up in a liturgical church and aren't really familiar with Maundy Thursday or Holy Thursday, that's what today's episode is all about. It is one of the most powerful moments in the final days of Jesus' life. And again, whether this is your first time hearing about it or if it's part of your tradition, I want to invite you to slow down and reflect with me today. So the word Maundy, comes from the Latin word mandatum, which means commandment. And it points to this moment in John 13 when Jesus says, "A new command I give you, love one another as I've loved you. So you must love one another." And Maundy Thursday commemorates the Last Supper, which we will talk about in just a second. And this is the final meal Jesus had with his disciples before he went to the cross. But it was more than just a meal. It was where Jesus washed their feet, showing us what servant leadership really looks like. And is where he instituted the communion or the Eucharist, breaking bread and sharing wine as symbols of his body and blood. Now, this is not the video to discuss transubstantiation and whether the body and blood or the bread and the wine are symbols of the body and blood, or whether it really is the body and blood of Jesus. That's a different subject for a different time, but suffice to say, this was the institution of communion. And it is where Jesus shared his final teachings and warnings and where Judas left to betray him. So we are going to read from John 13. I'm reading from the New Living Translation. And it begins with this. Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. When Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You don't understand now what I am doing, but someday you will." "No," Peter protested. "You will never, ever wash my feet." Jesus replied, "Unless I wash you, you won't belong to me." Simon Peter explained, "Then wash my hands and head as well, Lord, not just my feet." Jesus replied, "A person who has bathed all over does not need to wash, except for the feet, to be entirely clean. And you disciples are clean, but not all of you." For Jesus knew who would betray him. This is what he meant when he said, "Not all of you are clean." After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, "Do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right because that's what I am. But since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. I tell you the truth, slaves are no greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them. I am not saying these things to all of you. I know the ones I have chosen. But this fulfills the scripture that says, 'The one who eats my food has turned against me.' I tell you this beforehand so that when it happens, you will believe that I am the Messiah. I tell you the truth. Anyone who welcomes my messenger is welcoming me, and anyone who welcomes me is welcoming the Father who sent me." Now Jesus was deeply troubled, and he exclaimed, "I tell you the truth, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at each other, wondering whom he could mean. The disciple Jesus loved was sitting next to Jesus at the table. Simon Peter motioned to him to ask, "Who's he talking about?" So that disciple leaned over to Jesus and asked, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus responded, "It is the one to whom I give the bread I dip in the bowl." And when he had dipped it, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. When Judas had eaten the bread, Satan entered into him. Then Jesus told him, "Hurry and do what you are going to do." None of the others at the table knew what Jesus meant. Since Judas was their treasurer, some thought Jesus was telling him to go and pay for the food or to give some money to the poor. So Judas left at once, going out into night. As soon as Judas left the room, Jesus said, "The time has come for the Son of Man to enter into his glory, and God will be glorified because of him. And since God receives glory because of the Son, he will give his own glory to the Son, and he will do so at once. Dear children, I will be with you only a little longer. And as I told the Jewish leaders, you will search for me, but you can't come where I am going. So now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples." Simon Peter asked, "Lord, where are you going?" And Jesus replied, "You can't go with me now, but you will follow me later." "But why can't I come now, Lord?" he asked. "I'm ready to die for you." Jesus answered, "Die for me? I tell you the truth, Peter. Before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will deny me. You will deny 3 times that you even know me." So that was John chapter 13, again from the New Living Translation. But remember, there's so much happening on this night. So there's humility. Jesus, the Son of God, takes off his outer garment, kneels down, and washes dirty feet. In that moment, he redefines leadership. He shows us that greatness looks like service. There was sacrifice. When he breaks the bread and shares the cup, Jesus is preparing his followers for what's coming. He's not just giving them a ritual, he's giving them a picture of redemption. I also think that this is just my personal opinion on this, but in establishing communion and in establishing this feast, this new feast, Jesus is giving them a replacement for the feasts of old, so that they are no longer bound by the old Mosaic covenant. They are now bound by the new covenant, and this is the feast of the new covenant. And then there's surrender. Later that night in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prays, "Not my will, but yours be done." And that moment of surrender was not easy. In fact, let's take a look at Mark 14. You would think I would have had that ready for us, but we're going to look at Mark 14. It was now 2 days before Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The leading priests and the teachers of religious law were still looking for an opportunity to capture Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the Passover celebration, they agreed, or the people may riot. Meanwhile, Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon, a man who had previously had leprosy. While he was eating, a woman came in with a beautiful alabaster jar of expensive perfume made from the essence of nard. She broke open the jar and poured the perfume over his head. Some of those at the table were indignant. "Why waste such expensive perfume?" they asked. "It could have been sold for a year's wages and the money given to the poor." So they scolded her harshly. But Jesus replied, "Leave her alone. Why criticize her for doing such a good thing to me? You will always have the poor among you, and you can help them whenever you want, but you will not always have me. She has done what she could and has anointed my body for burial ahead of time. I tell you the truth, wherever the good news is preached throughout the world, this woman's deed will be remembered and discussed. Then I'm going to actually skip to verse 32, where Jesus prays in Gethsemane. They went to the olive grove called Gethsemane, and Jesus said, "Sit here while I go and pray." He took Peter, James, and John with him, and he became deeply troubled and distressed. He told them, "My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." He went on a little farther and fell to the ground. He prayed that if it were possible, the awful hour awaiting him might pass him by. "Abba, Father," he cried out, "everything is possible for you. Please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine." Then he returned and found the disciples asleep. He said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Couldn't you watch with me even 1 hour? Keep watch and pray so that you will not give in to temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak." Then Jesus left them again and prayed the same prayer as before. When he returned to them again, he found them sleeping, for they couldn't keep their eyes open, and they didn't know what to say. When he returned to them the third time, he said, "Go ahead and sleep, have your rest." But no, the time has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Up, let's go. Let's be going. Look, my betrayer is here. And that takes us through verse 42. And actually in Luke chapter 22, verse 44, it is recorded that Jesus sweat blood when he was praying this prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. But I think it's important to acknowledge that Jesus says, "Yet not my will, but yours be done." If there was any other way, let it be so, but there isn't. And so I'm going to do the will of the Father. And while some may see this night as the calm before the storm, it's actually packed with truth, love, and a depth that still speaks to us today. So what does Maundy Thursday mean for you and me? It's a call to serve with humility, even when we feel like we deserve to be served. It's a call to love deeply, even when we feel like others are hard to love. It's a call to remember because the world is loud and we are forgetful. This is why we have feasts. And it's a call to surrender, even when it costs us comfort. This is not a day for guilt. It's a day to lean into grace, to see Jesus for who he is, and walk with him through the final hours of his earthly ministry. But maybe you haven't followed all of Holy Week and you haven't celebrated every single day, and that's okay. Today is a beautiful place to pick up the story again. Reread John 13. If you have time, read through chapter 18, because there's so much Jesus imparts to his disciples. Sit in prayer. Light a candle if that's part of your tradition, and thank Jesus for his humility, his sacrifice, and his obedience, even to the point of death. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Shameless plug here. If you're listening to the audio on the podcast, make sure you hop over to the YouTube channel and leave a comment. What does Holy Thursday mean to you? In your church, do you see the priests washing the feet of parishioners? How do you celebrate Maundy Thursday, if you celebrate at all? How do you commemorate this day? And what does communion mean to you? With that, I will see you tomorrow on Good Friday. And there will be another reflection posted for Easter Sunday. And, I just am so privileged and honored to be able to walk through these moments with you. So again, I will see you in the next video. God bless all of you and have a good Maundy Thursday.